Welcome and good evening to the regular council meeting of Cross Lake. It is Monday, May 8th, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we approve the additions to the agenda tonight, if you look under G, Commission Reports, we are removing the item under Public Works number B. However, B1 will remain on the agenda. So with that, do we have an approval of the additions to the agenda for this evening's meeting?
Also move.
I'll second.
First by Brad Nelson, second by Gary Hecox. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also, tonight on the consent calendar, it is exceptionally long, so I urge you to take a look at it on our city website. And at this time, I would like a motion to entertain the acceptance of the consent calendar for this evening. I move that we accept the items on the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Second by Dave Schrupp, first by Patty Norgard. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Continuing on our agenda, under critical issues, we have Cindy Mugato to talk about our fundraiser for Light Up the Dam.
Like the lights, light up the dam. Light up the Cindy Mugato with the Cross Lake Chamber Office, and I'm here to explain this poster on the overhead for just a minute. So, bringing you back all, the Light Up the Dam was an idea that was actually sparked by Mayor Norgard about 5 years ago. A community committee was formed with the Chamber, the Cross Lake Ideal Lions, the Corps, the PAL Foundation, and a few retired community members. The white lights we strung in September to kick off Cross Lake Days. At Christmas time, we add a wreath, we add Santa, his sleigh and reindeer, the lights on the shelter, all the surrounding trees and fences. Every year it's a little different. And then we host a family-friendly event called Holiday at the Dam, the first Saturday in December, with Santa Claus is there, bonfires, sleigh rides, and then the retail shops in town get involved and offer holiday specials and deals and treats. And then in February, we turn the lights blue for Winterfest. And then in March, we switch to green for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And then it all comes down in April for the summer. So just a little shout out that I want to give to the Cross Lake Ideal Lions. They fund a large portion of those expenses. Jeremy Knipple has been working with us, and he actually welded the wreath for the Christmas feature and the shamrock for the St. Patrick's Day feature. We work with Dan Solar at the Cross Lake Ace Hardware, who scrounges up really good deal on LED lights for us. And then the PAL Foundation acts as our banker. So it really is a community effort to have this dam lit. And frankly, it's received some exposure from magazines and articles out of the region that we're lighting this dam. So it's kind of become, a little iconic in the Corps of Engineers world for sure. And we're always looking for ways to continue to grow the lighting displays, and now 5 years later, we're looking at having to replace some of those lights. So every summer, we host and have for the last several years outdoor movies at the dam. The movies, we have to buy copyrights for each movie. We supply popcorn and water, and we have decided that we want this to be a free family event. So we look to the business community to purchase advertisements before the movie in the form of previews. So I want to give a shout out to the chamber membership for doing that and actually funding those movies. We also have a donation box nearby for those who attend. And then new this year, we are going to have a brat sale. So on Friday, this Friday, from 11 to 5, we're calling it the Drive-By Brats. So you literally drive your car into the core, right into the entrance there, grab a brat basket, chips, a pop for a very affordable $5, $3, I think, for an extra hot dog. And all of those proceeds are going to support the lighting of the dam. Marty Reed has been very generous with the Reed's Market in donating the groceries for it. Panagold is donating the buns, and Pepsi is donating the pop. So 100% of the proceeds will go toward additional lights on the dam. So 11 to 5, come and get your lunch. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
And for all of you businesses out there, this is a great way to treat your employees to brat for lunch. So run by and buy a couple of brats. Okay, moving on down to the mayor's report. Tonight, we're going to talk just a little bit about an article that has been brought to our attention through the League of Minnesotas, and it's talking about the responsibility of the League of Minnesota and how it supports local government. And I'm sure sometimes we're not too surprised that we get under the rules and policies of state government and sometimes federal government. And so tonight we're going to pass a resolution that will put Cross Lake along with about 60 other cities right now that support keeping the responsibility of running our city at the local level. And so just briefly, I'll give you this background. The League has historically supported the principle of local control and opposed threats to local control at federal and state levels. League legislative policy SD2 states that city government most directly impacts the lives of people, and therefore local units of government must have sufficient authority and flexibility to meet the challenges of governing and providing citizens with local services. A core value of the League is that locally elected decision makers are in the best position to determine what health, safety, and welfare regulations best serve their constituents. And if you go to the League of Minnesota website, you will find that there's a lot of information out there on this, and I urge you to do so. And so at this time, before we have a council motion, I'd like to read the resolution supporting local decision-making authority. Whereas, local elected decision makers are in the best position to determine what health, safety, and welfare regulations best serve their constituents. And whereas, just like state legislative leaders, local elected officials are held accountable through Minnesota's robust election process. And whereas, ordinances are at the local level are enacted only after a comprehensive, legal, and open process. And whereas local units of government are required to publish notices about meetings where policies will be discussed and decisions will be made. And whereas, under the state's open meeting law, public policy discussions and decisions must occur in meetings that are accessible to members of the public. And whereas, cities are often laboratories for determining public policy approaches to the challenges that face residents and businesses. And whereas, preservation of local control in Minnesota has yielded statewide benefits such as the 2007 Freedom to Breathe Act and amendment to the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act. And whereas, more than 24 bills that restrict local decision-making have been introduced in 2017 to date. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Cross Lake that this council supports local decision-making authority and opposes legislation that removes the ability for local elected officials to respond to the needs of their businesses and constituents. Do I have a motion from the council to accept this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dave Schrupp. Is there a second?
Dave Nevin.
Oh, sorry.
I'll
And-
second it to
Okay.
confuse you.
First by Dave Nevin, second by Dave Schrupp. Is there any discussion? And Mark, you have a comment? May I? Yes, please. And John, do you want to turn the lights back on up there, and we can take this off the,
Mark Wessels, Cross Lake. I was reading through this and I didn't get a chance to look at very much. I found it sort of odd that in the black box it says, "Did you know to date more than 24 bills that restrict local decision-making," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but it doesn't list any of them. I'm a big proponent of local control over state control, but this almost sounds like, let's pass this to find out what's in it. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of where state control superseded City of Cross Lake control to our benefit. Back in the 80s, there was a septic law that you could not put your home up for sale, not even a for sale sign, unless your septic met current codes. If you were a widower or something like that, had no income, couldn't afford to do it, you wouldn't even be allowed to sell your house. You're going to lose all the equity in it because of that ordinance that we had. State stepped in and fixed that. The state stepped in to prevent county recorders from refusing to record a deed based on the status of a septic or any other matter. Recorder's office is to record. That's their job, is to record things. They can then notify the city of things like that. The state stepped in to change that law. The state stepped in to prevent cities from changing an ordinance prior to approval of a legal subdivision request. Timber Trail is an example of this. The city of Cross Lake wanted to stop it. They didn't want the development, so they tried to prevent it before it was approved. They wanted to change the ordinance before it was approved, I'm sorry, and state law stepped in and said you can't. When you have the legal application in front of you, you have to approve it or deny it. Another one that they did, that the state stepped in to limit the length of time a city or county can have a moratorium. A decision needs to be made to protect landowners' rights. So it's not every time the state wants to overstep our authority that they're doing something bad for us. Sometimes they're doing things good for us. It would be, again, I'm a big proponent of of local control, us ahead of the county, ahead of the state, but there are some things that, this would be one of those things where, based on some things that I've read about it, and I haven't read a lot of detail on it, I didn't know you were going to do this. Normally, the public forum is before you vote on these things, so I thought I'd have a chance to say it then, but I just think it'd be something, maybe you table it for a month and do some research, find out what some of these 24 bills are. A few of them might actually be good for us. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mark. Is there any other discussion regarding this resolution? I think Mark brings up some really good points, and that, you know, there has to be a balance on how we look at the various public policies that come across our desk.
How does that affect or jeopardize what we're doing here, though? I didn't quite understand all that, Mark, about that.
I don't know if it jeopardizes anything other than to say that, you know, when I read the
But I
policies
mean,
that,
in asking to table it, to me, is a concern of some kind.
okay?
So can I ask him to explain that?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Mark, do you want to come up?
Can you
And
explain that a little bit? If we're going to go ahead and pass this thing, and the state does some law,
It's really, basically it's resolution. It doesn't actually
Right.
create a law anyway. It's just telling the state, here's how we feel about it in Cross Lake. The problem is when they gave an example of 24 different laws that are taking power from the city, they didn't give us any examples. That's, reminds me of Nancy Pelosi, and let's pass this and find out what's in it. Okay, that's what I'm just saying. I don't think there's any urgency that you have to do anything today, because again, this doesn't actually create any policy at all. It's just telling the state, this is how we feel about it. And so to me, it's just like, table it for a month, do some research on it, find out what types of laws, ask the league. I mean, they're the ones that sent this out. To me, they should have sent, okay, here's the different bills that we're talking about, and so you could actually find out what's in those bills. What are we actually protesting? Are there things in there that are actually good for the city? That's the point. Slow down, that's all I'm saying.
is there any other discussion? Dan, do you have a
Yeah, I think the
comment?
session's over in 2 weeks, so either it's, you know, you send the message at this meeting, or it's going to wait, you know, until the next session. You know, it's advisory, it's an indication to our legislators that, you know, we'd like to keep local control. It's not, it doesn't is not mandatory to anybody that they follow.
I don't
So-
understand what it would affect by just going through with what we're doing, because we're still just sending the message that we want to keep it here.
All right.
I mean, I'd like to look and see what they're trying to change, be curious, but
Yeah, maybe the message to send back, if there's any concerns about it, is from the league, it is to the league. And I looked at the information, and Mark and I talked just before the meeting, and I kind of had the same ideas, like, there's all these bills out there, where are they? What are they? What do they mean? Now, there's one coming up later on in the meeting on the Public Works side that's specific to the cell industry. So that's a specific example, but it was also cited in this. But I don't know what all the bills are either. I haven't
so would
followed
you,
it that closely.
would you recommend we table it and just wait? I mean, there isn't a panic to
Either you
do it.
pass it or you don't. Yeah, tabling it, I mean,
Yeah.
again, the session's going to be over in a couple weeks, and
Being it's a resolution, that doesn't really stop the state. I mean, from
No.
those 24 bills, you don't know what's, I mean, this is just saying that we like the idea of keeping local control, but,
Right.
I mean, to Mark's point, that there, could be a couple of those in there that aren't bad, but there's a reason the League of Minnesota Cities, though, is, I mean, obviously behind this. Just,
well, the league, the association, I think Association of Counties, there's a lot of the,
And when I read it, they are very supportive of the local government. And they're just making that statement that we are here to support.
And that's
you
all we're
locally.
making the statement too. I mean, same thing. Yeah, so.
Dave, do you have any questions? Dave Schrupp?
no?
Gary?
oh,
Do we have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution as written?
There is one on the floor.
Oh, is there? I'm
I
sorry.
second
Oh,
it.
I'm
there is
sorry.
Nevin and Schrupp.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
It would be nice to see that list of
List.
And
things.
you know something, we can do that. We'll find that out and send it out to you. That's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Okay, then the other thing under the mayor's report is we have an application for an alternate on the Economic Development Authority. James Funk, he couldn't be here tonight. He's probably still training for grandmas. But however, Catherine and James have operated and owned Cross Lake Coffee for the past 2 years. They've been members of the Chamber of Commerce, I believe, for almost that period of time. Both the president of EDA and myself have visited with Jim, and he was at our last EDA meeting. And so from my personal experience, I think he would be a great addition to economic development. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion on the floor to accept the application of James Funk as the alternate for economic development?
I'll make that motion.
First by Gary Hecox. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by David Nevin. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Do we have any public forum people tonight? Mr. O'Connell.
Good evening, Mike O'Connell, 35411 Riverwood Court, resident and vice chair of the Cross Lakers, work group leader of the housing work group and a part of the connectivity work group. Wanted to share with the council that over the winter, we applied with the help of Mike Linus and Ted Strand, GLAR, Greater Lakes Association of Realtors, for a pilot format of a walkability grant throughout the National Association of Realtors, and we were successfully accepted to do so. We're going to be having a workshop in Cross Lake on June 12th and 13th. The first day, June 12th, is for a smaller group with city officials. We'll invite later this week, an email will go out to all of you, Public Works, John Hinkie with the Park Rec, some of the volunteer groups, and any other people that are looking to meet with the first day. We will walk and look at about 3 miles, a little more, from the community center down to the dam and back up towards Crosswoods Golf Course to look at a walkability study that will provide the following day from 9 to 2:30, open to the public. That would be workshops for public input and a 1.5 mile walk workshop that we can look at having lunch and reviewing the different components of the city and how we can better connectivity through Town Square, the lake, the main drag, and the trails that are existing and future trails in Cross Lake. I'll put on the overhead here just some details for everyone to see, along with the Director of Innovation, Dan Burden, and Samantha Thomas of Blue Zones will be conducting the study. They have over 35 years of experience in over 200 communities that will help us with our format. And if you're looking for activity to contact, interest in it, Marissa, who is the Government Affairs Director at Greater Lakes Association, I'll put her information up here for us. So this grant was approved with $16,500 amount was approved in February to work with Blue Zones. $15,000 of it will come from National Association of Realtors with $1,500 from the local Greater Lakes Association. It doesn't have any cost to the city. It's a grant just for our benefit. And we will have Marissa reaching out for everybody for RSVP because we will be serving lunch. We have reserved the fellowship hall at the Lutheran Church for that day, and the agenda here for June 13th is starting at 9 a.m. with the welcome and introductions, the presentation and description of the walkability for about an hour. We'll do a walking audit. That'll be that 1.5 miles in different groups. We will have lunch provided at the fellowship hall at the Lutheran Church from noon to 12:30, and then we will break out into sessions and create work groups and create reports out, and closing at the end of the day at 2 o'clock. The Blue Zones will then, after that presentation on Tuesday, they will provide us with a full report that we can provide to the city and include a part of comp plan or anything else that provides the ability of walkability. Any questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mike. This is on Friday, is it open to the public? No, Wednesday?
Tuesday. Tuesday is open to the
Okay.
public.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Get your walking shoes on and walk the town with us. Thank you. Our next on the agenda is the city administrator's report. Dan?
Item 1, we have a letter dated April 9th, 2017 from Mission Township regarding fire protection. We have a note of council direction on that. Just as an FYI, I probably got a call, it's almost a year ago, that there was the possibility of Mission Township taking a look at some alternatives to their fire protection. Now, Dave Hauser had given me the phone call just as a courtesy, I guess, to say that we're thinking about it. It was only a few people, I think, at the time. It wasn't the whole township. You're hearing about it, obviously, on April 9th that you got the letter. I sent the letter out as soon as I got it, because I didn't know where this was going with Mission Township, and frankly, Dave was looking at whether or not this was going to come to reality or not. We did get the letter. I sent it out to you as soon as we got it. I did have a few conversations with Chip, and he has been involved in this. Our fire chief, Chip Lohmiller, obviously has been involved in this from day one as well, and to see whether or not there's anything going to come of it, we didn't know. Now, at their annual meeting, which is held in March in the townships, where the citizens can come in and actually pass ordinances, set policy, set the budget, and do other things, it looks as though they've had the discussion that they want to ask Cross Lake whether or not we might have an interest in providing fire protection, EMS protection to them. At this point, as soon as I got the letter, I talked to Chip about it, and Chip has done a little bit of research and tried to take a look at what makes the most sense. You know, is it covering the whole township? Should Nisswa, Brainerd, anybody else get involved in a partial covering of Mission as well? So I think at this point, the suggestion that I have is that perhaps the mayor, maybe one other council member, Chip and myself, set up a meeting with the township and either meet with Mr. Hauser, Supervisor Hauser. They can't really meet with one other one because they only have 3 supervisors, and you got a quorum, or meet at their town board meeting, but initiate the discussion if you have any interest in this. I think at this point, the question is should we continue to explore it? And if so, appoint a few of us to go meet with them and come back to you with some additional information at some point in the future. So just wanted to give you a little history. I've had some discussion over the course of just about a year on this, but, and I know that you don't like hearing about things 11 months after it happened, but on the other hand, they weren't sure where this was going to go, and they really didn't want our fine local press to be picking up that this was being a consideration when it wasn't, that hadn't come to fruition at the township yet. So at this point, are you interested? If so, we'd like an appointment of a few of us, go meet with them and see where we're at.
They're talking about disbanding their volunteer fire department.
Well, one of the items they
Have
talked
enough.
about is whether or not we'd administer their fire department. And they're looking at various alternatives. They're having trouble with firefighters on that. You know, it's during the workday, Monday through Friday. I think a lot of communities do have that problem because, you know, they're working elsewhere. They're not working near the fire station. Nights, you know, is a little better, and weekends are a little better. But I don't know where they're at. If they're, talking about disbanding, they want us to manage what they've got. They want us to protect them, provide protection for a certain period of time. It's a fact-finding mission that we need to go on right now, I think, and see where we're at.
What's Chip say about this? I mean,
Chip's
I just,
reaction.
my mind's empty, because
Yeah,
I
I
would
think-
think Chip's talked about he can't get people here. There was a discussion.
I think we have a better track record as far as getting people here during those daytime runs than where they're at. And when there are people that are working outside of Mission Township, we have some businesses and some, in fact, local employees that are able to provide protection. Chip's reaction is, we'll take a look at it. He wouldn't do anything, as I wouldn't do anything until we actually got something in writing from Mission to say, we want to take a look at it and study it. So Chip is, willing to serve at the pleasure of the council, obviously. If the council wants to pursue it further, he's willing to participate and do the best he can and provide the best service for us and Mission, if that's what it comes to.
Gary, your thoughts?
I don't see anything wrong with the fact-finding mission.
Right.
I think that we should probably explore it. They're going to have to reimburse us, and
Right.
Brad?
Well, we do provide the police protection now. I think you have to just give them the courtesy, I guess, of at least sitting down and listening to them. I mean, they're reaching out to us because they've been happy so far with that. I mean, I don't see any problem, for a fact-finding mission for you to go down there and sit down with their officials and say, all right, what is your intention and what are you trying to accomplish, and see how it fits in.
Right.
Dave?
I agree.
Okay. Should we just continue on putting together
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to the council who you'd like to see go meet with the township people. I'd certainly be interested in being involved, as well as the fire chief should be involved. Certainly, you can appoint, I would say 1 or 2. Obviously, you can't appoint 3, then you got an open meeting issue, but 1 or 2 of you to meet with the township and come back with a report.
I would volunteer to attend that meeting. Any of you interested in attending?
Let me go.
I got enough.
Do you do? I think,
I'd go down,
how about Dave?
yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave Nevin?
Okay. Why, if you're okay at this point in continuing on, I would appreciate a motion then to, I have council direction, I didn't know where you were going to be with this, I didn't want to assume there'd be a motion coming here. So a motion to appoint, if it's the mayor and Councilmember Nevin to, and myself and Chip to go meet with the township and come back at some point in the future.
I'll make that.
That you're interested in pursuing it.
Okay. Gary?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. First by Gary Hecox. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave Schrupp. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
So you'll just figure out a time and let us know.
Yep. I'm taking some notes here, sorry. Item 2, we have a memo from Shar regarding approval of a tap room and brewer off-sale license request. The request was made by 14 Lakes Craft Brewing Company. As noted in the memo, final approvals are anticipated to be coming, and the brewery will hopefully open by June 1st. We've done the background checks and everything is fine. They would do a prorated license for 1 month, and then the license would then be renewed on July 1st. You see in your consent agenda that you have already approved all the licenses for next year, but we don't want to anticipate that you'd do the 1 month and then approve them for next year. So if you're inclined to approve this, we would recommend you do the 1 month, June 1 through June 30th, 2017, and also to approve the renewal as of July 1st.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
First, David Nevin. Second, Gary Hecox. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Had a personnel meeting last week. A couple items. Item 3 there is an ordinance regarding the Personnel Commission. Currently, the ordinance that establishes the Personnel Commission in Section 2 of the City Code indicates that the general manager is on the Personnel Committee. Well, the general manager refers to Cross Lake Communications. Obviously, we don't have that anymore, so we don't have a general manager. So you see in the agenda, it was an addition to your agenda this evening, that the recommendation is to have the mayor, 1 council member, the finance director / treasurer, and 1 non-supervisory city employee, and that the non-union supervisory city employee term would be limited to a 1 calendar year ending on December 31st of each year. We thought it would be important for each of the department heads or supervisors to get into the personnel committee so they can kind of see how it operates and what they need to do to bring things through to the personnel committee onto the city council. So the recommendation from the personnel committee is to adopt a motion to adopt the ordinance that you have in front of you regarding the slight change to the Personnel Commission.
Is there a motion on the floor to adopt that ordinance regarding the change in personnel?
I'll make that motion.
First by Brad Nelson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Gary Hecox. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And then if you choose now that the ordinance has been adopted, the recommendation is to appoint John Hankey our Park and Recreation Director for the remainder of 2017 to the Personnel Committee, Personnel Commission, I'm sorry.
Need a motion? I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second on the floor to
I'll second
approve
that.
John Hanky to fulfill the term of 2017? Any further discussion? All those in favor of motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The other item, one of the other items, I guess, that the Personnel Commission talked about is the ordinance, an ordinance change in our city code eliminating the Cross Lake Communications Advisory Board. We talked about this last year, but it was prior to all of the final numbers and all of the final paperwork being completed for Cross Lake Communications. So we held off on eliminating the advisory commission at that time, but everything has been resolved with regards to Cross Lake Communications. We no longer have anything going on with that. All of the transaction has been finalized, so the recommendation then is to amend Chapter 2 of the city code to delete the wording regarding Cross Lake Communications Advisory Board.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion first by Dave Schrupp, second by Gary Hecox. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And then, rather than publishing the entire text, a recommendation is to publish a summary of the ordinance, and that's the next item on your agenda. The recommendation is to adopt that ordinance for the summary.
Is there a motion on the
I'll
floor?
make that motion.
First, Gary Hecox. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Dave Schrupp. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Now we'll go on to commission reports, and the first one up is Public Works with Ted Strand.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ted.
I guess the first topic is the cell phone, the wireless unregulated access to public assets. I guess the way I understand it, there's legislation going through that would allow these people to put these towers up wherever they want to in our right-of-way. And we don't have a lot to say about it other than we can pass this resolution. And I hope you've all read it. It's quite lengthy, the document about the league and everything that's in it. It even gives you some pictures, what it looks like unregulated and regulated on the first page. For some reason, I never received a copy of the resolution, so.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a resolution, or I didn't see the resolution as part of this. I don't know, Mike, if you have had any conversation in any other cities with regards to this item, and including the small cell wireless facilities in the public right-of-way without any city involvement as far as a permitting process in our right-of-way.
Yeah, I've not had any conversation. I've seen this happening, but no more so than you, I guess.
Okay.
Do you want to see if there is a resolution out there? I mean, and if it
I
is,
thought
it's
I-
probably going to be the same length of time as the first resolution that was passed.
Yes, I believe so. I just want to see what direction you want me to take. Do you want me to get the resolution, bring it back to you for your motion? Do you want to think about this a while? Do you want us to get more facts on it? Where do you want us to go?
You know, I did notice in the league bulletin that was, that came out today, it said that there was, that the bill to allow this was gaining traction at the legislature. Now, again, you've only got 2 weeks left, and whether or not there will be a bill on it, I don't know that, but it sounds like it's gaining traction. But as far as, putting facilities in, either our right-of-way, county right-of-way, state right-of-way, I can't believe that there shouldn't be some type of a control. And I think the reaction from the league was that they are part of the league and others have been part of the discussion, and there has been some negotiation going on back and forth, and there's been some headway, but I think that the reaction is that we have to have some control over what's going in the right-of-ways. We need to know what's going in our rights-of-way in all of these other areas, so.
Well, yeah, one of the suggestions, and you read in there, is have a right-of-way ordinance, which we don't have one in place as today, but that is one of the suggestions, so.
Do you think there's a demand or a need, or we're going to get more cell towers, or?
The way that sounds, the small cellulars are popping up all over, and it's a booming business. They're the ones that are lobbying to get this stuff through, so. I don't know if Brad has seen any of the other cities act on this, or,
Well, I recommend that we have a right-of-way ordinance. I'm sure you want one.
I'd love to have one.
Yeah, this is just one reason why. There's many others, but
Yes.
that'd be a good goal to have anyway.
So is the motion to get a right-of-way ordinance, to prepare
Well,
one or look into one?
Yeah, so this is one example, but it's also just, cities often complain that other utility companies will kind of rip up our streets to
Yeah.
install their things and not patch it real well, or, and then we're stuck having to redo roads sooner than we'd like to. That's an example of, or just not knowing where to locate utilities because they don't do a good job of giving us as-built.
Yeah, right.
So there's lots of reasons why it'd be nice to have more, doesn't necessarily mean fees, it's just more supervision so that Ted knows where things are at and when they're putting them in.
well, it's just not me, as I go forward and retire, the next person can answer the questions. What is out there? And then we'd have a way to track it. Right now, we don't get,
So, but is that what you're looking for, is a ordinance for right-of-way?
I think a right-of-way ordinance is part of it. I want to look more into what this resolution they talk about in there.
The right-of-way ordinance isn't going to fix whether they vote in the next 2 weeks on
Yeah.
this, but it just brings up, we've talked about this a few times before, and there's always 10 other things we got to get done, but if we had time, a right-of-way ordinance would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And we can review it at Public Works and bring it back to you. The league actually has an example to work off of, and it's really good. So,
So you're just looking from us to say, yeah, go ahead and look into
yeah,
it?
what direction you want me to go?
Yeah.
I think you should continue exploring it and present us with more facts, especially when you go to the Public Works. And, I mean, this ordinance might be something that we, look at further on down the line. I think that the resolution that we signed tonight, and Dan, as far as I'm concerned, kind of covers what we're talking about right now.
It just seems crazy that you can't, in the right-of-ways now, nobody else can go out and start putting up structures or, any type of thing in right-of-way that, but for some reason, they're going to let these cell towers start popping up just willy-nilly?
Yeah, as you can see, I put up the picture of one that was unregulated and one that looks like a streetlight. So,
Anybody have any more questions or comments for Ted?
with that, we'll be taking it back to Public Works and we'll be bringing more information as things.
Sounds good.
Sounds good,
Okay.
thank you.
The next one is the awarding of the bids. Dave, did you want to talk to this one?
You have the excess,
Yeah.
your surplus equipment.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's up there too. Okay. There's a list in your packet of surplus equipment. Some of the stuff has been around here since before my time. We just end up storing it, we don't use it anymore. I'd like permission to, where's that one? I'd like permission to put this up on the NJPA site, to try to put it up for sale that way first. And then after so many days on there, if there's no other cities that would like to purchase it, then it goes out to the general public on that same site, so.
So what is the stuff called scrap though, Ted? Is that gonna go on the site also?
If you just give me permission to get rid of it, that will take and we'll just go down and recycle the steel. It's just, there's, a bit of a plow blade and but it's still city property. I just can't go dispose of it. I need permission to recycle it.
But when you put it on the site, you take a picture of it and you put it on the site.
Yes.
I would tell you to put it on the site and run it through the public. I think people would want to have it, or at least take that option.
Okay.
And so what you need from us is a motion to.
Declare this
put-
stuff surplus and then we'd move forward with it.
Okay, that sounds great. Is there a motion on the floor to declare the equipment as surplus and to let Ted go?
I'll make that motion
Okay.
and encourage
One
you
more
to-
question with you. We typically, the money that comes in for this just goes back into the city funds. If I could have permission to use this money as, to outfit the new pickup that I'm trying to purchase and some of the other things that we'd like to replace, if I could have permission to use that money that we got out of this, I'd be appreciating that, but that's still your decision.
Do you think we might get a little more if we give you that?
I don't know.
So let's first get that
Incentive.
motion on the floor. And Dave, did you start
Yeah. I
that
made a-
motion?
yeah.
David Nevin, and do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Second by Dave Schrupp. Is there any further discussion?
I would just encourage you to try to sell it. Somebody will buy that scrap,
Oh, yeah.
on
Yeah.
a picture, so.
Yep.
All those in favor of the
If
motion?
I can, Mayor, just a
Yes.
clarification on the motion then is to declare this property as excess, and you can get rid of it any way you can, and the proceeds of that would go towards outfitting on a vehicle if you.
One of the other
Okay.
vehicles are
purchase
replacing
later in
something
the
else we've
area.
got in
Okay.
fleet, so,
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
okay. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Now, Dave, would you come up for a second, please?
Evening, Mayor, City Council.
Hello, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
If you recall, last month, we reviewed the bids for the 2017 street improvements, and at that point in time, we recommended not awarding to DeChantel Excavating as we were working through some of the right-of-way issues. I think we're at a point where we're ready to award the project, and that's the action before you tonight, to award to DeChantel Excavation for their low bid, as was received on April 6th.
Just a quick question. I think you talked who DeChantel Excavating was last time. Can you just remind us again where they came from and
Sure.
have we used them before in Cross Lake, and are you familiar with them? I just couldn't
Yes.
remember.
DeChantel Excavating is a contractor from Brainerd, Minnesota. They've done several projects for municipalities in the area from probably Crosby to Verndale, upwards halfway to Walker and south of Brainerd. So, they've been around for many years. We've done several projects with them. They don't specifically do paving. They subcontract that, so they're the prime. We understand their sub that will do the paving is Anderson Brothers.
Okay. Thank you. I could not exactly remember
Okay.
the details on that. Does anybody have any questions for Dave?
Obligated to take the low bid on that?
Well, you are unless you can make findings that they're not a responsible, qualified bidder. So
Well,
you
I mean,
can't
I'll-
just say because you like the second lowest or third lowest, or they're more local, that's not proper. But if you can find that, based on specific findings, DeChantel isn't qualified, but we'd have to be pretty careful on that, then you can go to the second lowest.
Well, I don't have any knowledge of that at all.
I
just
have had some working with DeChantel when I was in Brainerd, and they've done decent work for us. Again, Anderson Brothers is a sub on this thing, and DeChantel will do the road work, the underground if there is, and the grading, and Anderson's going to do all the paving.
So they'll get
And
it.
you kind of tell that was coming, so.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments for Dave? And so now we will entertain a motion on the floor recommending Deschantel for the bid award.
So can you make, excuse me, can you make a motion stating that Anderson is going to be doing the actual paving?
No.
I don't think so.
No, you're making an award to Deschantel, the prime bidder.
You're on notice that he has knowledge of that.
Yeah.
But, and we know for sure that I'm on specific personal knowledge, they don't do their own paving. I don't know that they're using Anderson, but,
Yeah.
and to his point, unlike a lot of projects, I mean, there's hardly any underground being done. I mean, it's mostly just resurfacing here, so it's 90% paving, you know, their role is very minimal.
Right, and I would say it's a verbal conversation at this point that we've asked, who is your paving sub? That's what we were told.
Well, if they were, I'd be comfortable with it, but if they're not, I wouldn't be. But maybe there's nothing I can do about it.
Just for the, I think Dan made something, but I've, in other cities I represent, I've had several multi-million dollar deals with Deschantel, and there's been no, much bigger projects than this. No concerns.
And I just don't have any
Yeah.
experience with them.
I'll make the motion, we accept or
Okay.
issue the contract to Deschantel
First,
Excavating.
okay, thank you. A motion was made by Dave Schrupp to accept the recommendation of Deschantel. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Second by Brad Nelson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave.
The last one I have to talk about is, I think we need to have a workshop on the way things are going with the wastewater plant, and what is, things have changed. And by that I mean the growth, this growth potential. All of a sudden, we're hearing the townhouses, we're hearing 28-unit apartment building, we're hearing 75-bed assisted living. The school is going up from this to that in students, 200 and some plus, so we're gaining another 75 students plus staff there. Today, I was asked the question about a car wash, an individual that wants to start a car wash down in that area. So we have a number of things that might change the scope of the work, and before we go too far down it, I think I need to have a workshop with the council and with Bolton and Mink at the same time, and probably my Public Works Commission at the same group. My problem is I'm leaving on vacation on May, well, the latest date I can go is the 22nd, so I got the next 2 weeks. If I could get you, a good part of you, to sit down with us and go over this.
Is that going to be a part of, as we get these apartment buildings and everything coming up, deciding on whether we're going to do them, or probably, huh? I mean, we got to have the sewer to.
And I know there's another piece of property, the old White House behind the Army, or behind Andy's. There's something going on there too, and it's not being shared with me, but there's lots of things that are happening, and I just want to caution us that we make sure we look at, because it can change the scope of this work. I mean, we could add $1 million to our sewer renovation if this happens.
Yeah, okay. So I think our last workshop was on a Tuesday, right?
I believe so.
Did that work for the council?
Thursday, didn't we have one on a
Oh, was-
Thursday night?
Oh, was it
Yeah.
Thursday night
At 5.
at 5? Does Thursday night work for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd work.
So
yeah.
should we, Ted, should we have it next week, Thursday? That give you
It's-
time?
So the 18th then you're talking?
May 18th.
This would be the 11th this week and the 18th the following week.
Yeah, I won't be here that Thursday.
Okay. Then the following Thursdays, that's the 25th then, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm out of town, so.
Okay, so then, what about, can you pull in something together this Thursday? that too quick?
I believe so. The engineer was working on getting me some cost figures so we had some numbers with us to be talking about this.
I mean, we want to give you plenty of time to put the agenda together, so
I think we can do it by Thursday evening.
how does Thursday evening look for the council? Okay, so does that give
Can we do it at 5
again?
o'clock? Does that work again for you
Yeah.
guys?
I just got a meeting in the morning, but that's fine.
Dan, does that give us a 3-day notice?
Yeah, if you can adjourn this meeting to the next meeting, and then you don't have the 3-day thing. You've got the
Okay.
press sitting here, and obviously the public's going to be informed of the notice, so you don't have the 3 days notice
And that was
situation when
on,
you adjourn it.
what's that Thursday?
The 11th?
The 11th? No, yeah.
Yeah,
The 11th.
today's the 8th, that would be the 11th.
Okay,
At what time?
okay.
5?
Do we want to invite Chris's people for what they've heard? Development?
Well,
Planning and zoning.
Planning and
Chris
zoning.
Pence?
Planning and
Oh,
zoning,
oh,
right?
Chris, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It would be
John's
very,
here.
if we could get somebody from them, maybe they have more insight on some
Yeah.
of this other stuff.
Yeah. It would be you, yeah.
Okay, can you make it on 5 o'clock?
Okay. So that's on the
18th.
11th.
11th. We were
The
going to move it
11th?
to the 11th, yes, at 5 PM.
This Thursday.
This
This
Thursday.
coming Thursday.
That's fine.
Okay. Does that meet your needs, Ted?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
The sooner we can get on this, the better, because
Yep.
we'd still like to get this out for bids
Yep.
in June, or later June, so.
Okay.
And I got one more thing to Ms. Mayor to go over. I was asked by some citizens about if I'd heard anything when the work was going to be done on the rock dam. And there's going to be, the Soil and Water Conservation District is going to be doing what they call Phase 1, a temporary blockage of the blowout. And it's going to take place near the beginning of June, is what they're telling me. I know there was some people that didn't even want to put their lifts and docks out because of the low water down there this year. So that's what I found out. I wanted to share it on TV and with you all, so.
Perfect.
Otherwise, I have nothing else unless you have something for me.
Great report. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
And our next one under commission reports is Park and Rec. John Henke?
Good evening.
Hey, John.
I was going to have Bob do my report since it's his last council meeting tonight, but I don't think he's interested in doing that. So I'll run through a few things briefly here. Our AAA class that was scheduled for this week has been canceled. They didn't have enough people sign up for the full 8-hour class. South Bay Park update, we're still waiting to talk to one of the key property owners down in that area. I talked to another resident today, stopped in and wondered what the update was on the road. We did get some estimates in from Bolton and Mink. It looks like the road would cost about $300,000 to complete. So that would include the brushing and getting the road in place. It does not include the utilities. We're still talking to some of the utility companies. Sounds like we just put fiber in down there in the last 5 years, so Cross Lake Communications isn't really too crazy about moving those lines since they were just put in. But we're in talks with them to firm up our estimates for the utilities also. I met with the Corps of Engineers last week, and they are interested in being a participant when we do get the road in. Talked to Corrine about that. She's going to have a little stay down at St. Paul for the next few months, so congratulations to her on that promotion. But she's going to continue working with us over email so we can continue moving forward. But right now, we're just considering the road portion, which doesn't really affect the Corps of Engineers property at all. We're working closely with the residents down there, and I'm hoping in the next week to get in touch with our last property owner and have a better idea of what direction the road could potentially go. But tonight, we wanted just to give you an idea of what we found out from the estimates from Bolton and Mink. And we'll be sharing more detailed plans with this as soon as we talk to that property owner. We just didn't want to get too far down the road until we get a kind of an idea of what they're thinking about road location, since we're more than likely going to have to use a portion of their property somewhere. So we'll give you an update on that as soon as possible. We may need a special meeting sometime in the next month. If you want this to continue to move forward, remember one of our key property owners is looking at possibly doing a transaction here later this summer, and they're going to need some survey work to be completed before then if we decide to go ahead with this. So we might need to get together, like I said, sometime in the next month to talk about those possibilities. I'm working with Brad just to cover some of the legal aspects of how we're notifying people, and so Brad and I met on Monday and talked about some of those issues, and so we'll continue to move ahead with caution on that and keep you informed when we can. So, book sale report. We had our first book sale with our new meeting room off of the gym, and I want to first of all thank the volunteers that built our new shelves. One of our carpenters sits on the council, Mr. Dave Schrupp, and we had some great volunteers that came and put together a new shelving, and we stocked them with books, and we had our first sale last Friday from noon to 4. We brought in $595 in proceeds, and had a lot of volunteers that helped with stocking those shelves, and also folks that came in and worked Friday afternoon. So we're looking forward to our next sale, which will take place June 2nd and Saturday, June 3rd. Hours will be 12 to 4 Friday and 10 to 1 on Saturday. So we're looking for even better results. And we've been getting books in. So if you got new books within the last 5 years, we are taking donations at the community center. If you got super old books, keep those at home. We're not looking for the real old books. We're looking for books that we can either put on the shelves of our library or incorporate to our book sale fundraiser. So I appreciate the public's help on that. We've had a lot of donations coming in. A Day of Caring took place last Thursday. We had quite a few numbers of kids from Pequot Lakes High School that came over, and we put wood chips in our community garden, and also did some fresh wood chips around our patio garden. Every year seems like a better year than the last, but these kids really do work hard. It's free labor for us, and it's a good service project for the kids and also the school. So I want to thank the Pequot Lakes School for putting that on, and all the kids that came down and helped us last Thursday. Library patio garden. We had volunteers come in last Wednesday, the day before the kids got here, to do some weeding and get ready for the kids the next day. And we are looking for more people to help out with that project. We've picked up a couple people each year. So if you've got a day, even one day a month, or even an hour a month, or an hour each week, whatever you want to give. If you like meeting new people in the community and coming out and helping us with our library patio garden, we sure would like the assistance, and you can contact me at the community center if you want to get involved with that. Community center schedule will be closed Monday, May 29th for Memorial Day. And we've got one of our biggest events of the year taking place Saturday, June 3rd. A couple months ago, the council had a letter from the Tour of Lakes bike ride folks here, just kind of inquiring about the ability to use local city streets, and I think the council gave their blessing at that time. But I wanted to remind everybody that we'll have over 1,000 bike riders in our city that day, Saturday, June 3rd. Obviously, we're back into the summer swing of things. The traffic, the speed on Daggett Pine Road picks up, and I'll work with our new police chief and the police department in making sure that we have officers down in that area to provide a safe environment for the riders. I'd also like to have our radar sign put up that day. That usually helps keep the speed down. But most of all, we just want to have a fun, safe day for all the riders. A lot of money comes into the community that day. Obviously, these folks go out and eat at our restaurants, and they're back here every 3 or 4 years. So we always put on a great event, so we're looking forward to that again this year on the 3rd of June. My last announcement for the night is we are starting a new program. We've discontinued, at least temporarily, the Cross Lake Chautauqua program. Joe Albrecht retired from doing that last year. We've got a lot of community members that enjoyed that program and wanted to keep that spirit of that program alive. And so we've introduced a new program. It's called Cross Lake Conversations. And basically, what we're looking at is having different topics that are related to our community, that are of interest to our citizens and our guests. And we've got the first one coming up on June 14th, which is the second Wednesday of the month. It matches the same schedule as Chautauqua did in the past. It starts at 1:30, and that'll take place in June, July, and August, so our basic busy summer months. But we haven't set up a final topic yet. I sent an email out to our mayor today, and I thought with all the school edition and the exciting things with our comp plan and some of the other initiatives that we've got, we just talked about sewer, we've talked about South Bay Park, we've got a lot of new things possibly coming into the community, and I think the public is interested in all those things. Obviously, they can read those things in the paper, but a lot of times they like to hear the presentations, and I'm kind of thinking maybe that day we bring a collection of those things together and talk about some of those things. But I'm open to suggestions. We haven't set anything in stone yet, so if the council has ideas or the public has a good idea, that's what we're thinking about now, but we're still open, and we will be setting that, whatever that topic is, in the next week so we can start advertising for that.
Yep.
And setting up specifics. So I welcome any ideas that everyone has. So
Great.
if there's no questions for me, that's my report for tonight.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our city attorney, do we have any reports tonight,
No report.
Mr. Person? Okay. We are down to the public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Does anybody have anything they would like to say from the audience? Is there any old business? John?
I should have thanked Bob when I was up here, but it's his last meeting, and I think he deserves a round of applause for his service to the city, for those that weren't here at the special meeting. Bob Hartman.
And it looks like he wants to say something, so we'll give him his 3 minutes, huh? 3 minutes of fame.
About 30 seconds worth.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, council member, people, in the audience, business people. It's been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. 22 years in Cross Lake. I have no intention of leaving the city whatsoever. It's an absolutely wonderful place to live, great people. Thank you again.
Thank you, Bob.
Barbara? Is there any new business?
Bob, you're welcome to attend all city council meetings still. You can come and sit in with us
Gonna
and
miss these Mondays.
Is there any new business? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
And the motion would be to adjourn this meeting to a special meeting on May 11th at 5 p.m.
And do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting to a special
I will
council
make that
meeting?
motion.
Okay. David Nevin made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Gary Heacock, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.